Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder we have some planned battle rating changes for February 2019, posted by Stoner and of course the War Thunder forums. So understand that these are planned battle rating changes. This means that right now they are not in the game yet, but the idea is that these will come to the game pretty soon, and since it says February 2019, my guess is in the next week or so. Obviously these can change, the last sets that we had did change, so if this video becomes outdated within a day, I apologize, there's not really a lot I can do about it. We're going to go through each of the vehicles, my personal opinions on the new BR changes, and whether I personally think it's good or bad or all of that stuff. So let's get into it. The first one is a bit of a bit of an issue. So the KV2 ZIS-6. Now if you don't know what the KV2 ZIS-6 is, it's this vehicle here. It's a vehicle that I believe you could purchase, whether it was in certain sales over the years or as a bundle vehicle, and I've never got my hands on it. It's also hidden in the tree, so you can not really see it. It's just a KV2 with a big, long, penetrating gun on it, and overall, it seems pretty solid whenever I've seen it in the game. My personal thing is, though, I've never really had issues facing it, and it's because of the issue with all of the KV2s, this area here. This area is where you shoot every single KV2 you can find, and I'll show you why. So, we have in-game, at least I do, a 1940 and a 1939 version of the KV2. The 40 is the rare version, but you can even see with this one, if you go to the armor profile, this flat area is only 75, so at 4.3 that this thing's at, you can just shoot here with anything and just go straight through. And this KV6 is going up to 5. Oh, actually, sorry, it's going down to 5. So it's getting a little bit of a BR decrease, but I think it still has the inherent issues of this area just being so easy to pen. It does mean that the KV has to be looking at you, so sometimes it'll get the shot off first, but because it's such a big beluga, in my opinion, it's never really going to be a meta vehicle. Maybe they're lowering it because there's going to be a bundle coming out soon. I've had a look at the statistics and thought, yeah, it should be lowered. But overall, it's not a tank that I see widely used. It's not a tank that appears in a lot of statistics, so I'm not too bothered about this change, really. The next one's the IS-7, so now we go from a vehicle that isn't really talked about to one that is hotly debated. So the IS-7 at 8.0 is one of those machines that a lot of people talk about, and the reason is because it's an event vehicle. A lot of people got it in the event last year, even though a lot of people complained that the event was too hard, but now it seems that we have a crisis of IS-7s. For me personally, when it comes to the IS-7, I find it a fun vehicle to use because it is a tank which actually has armor and also has a gun which can support it, and with the most recent equation changes has a round which can pen over 300mm. Now this doesn't really matter, it could still pretty much pen everything it touched before, but now it just gives you that added security, which is nice. On top of this, the gun is generally quite stable, even though it doesn't have a stabilizer, and it also has good capabilities of machine gunning anything light-tiered which it may face. Now, the IS-7 has been hotly debated for a long time, and I feel like it's because of the event, and the event itself being really open to people who play War Thunder a lot. You know, it's kind of an argument I talk about quite a lot, and it's a bit of a problem argument, where if you decide to create a really tough event, like the E100 event, or the HE162 idea, or even the IS-7, where it takes a hell of a lot to grind, then you're only going to give it to the players who play the game a hell of a lot, and normally those players are the better players at the game because they have the experience on their side. So the IS-7 kind of get artificially buffed because of that, and that means that when you get a force squad in it, or when you get even individuals in it, it runs around and does a hell of a lot of damage and just annihilates everything that it touches. And also, a lot of people struggle with the frontal armor of it, and I think this is just because maybe they don't know where to shoot it. I never actually did a review on this vehicle, just because I never fully spaded it, and I wasn't interested in spading it because I had other stuff to do, and I still do. I mean, to me, it's just another Soviet Heavy, which has a really good gun on it with an autoloader. So, you have the lower plate, which is, it's still 260 odd. Then you've got 352 on the optic glacis because of this diagonal idea. The place to always pen it is around like this area here. And then what you would do, even if you even had it off around, you would pen it here, and then it would hit the optics and then bounce down and kill everything in the tank. Like, that's pretty much how you do it. The other issue with the i7 is the sides of it, where it's still 100 millimeters at the side, and depending on where you want to pen it, it means that you may also have issues because it has this diagonal armor. You see what I mean? How it's like, this is like 500 millimeters, so up here you got like 250, so you have to make sure to aim correctly, and then on top of that you got the tracks in the way. So this is a beefy vehicle, it's got a good gun on it, and overall I'm really not surprised it's going up in BR. The reason is because it's one of those easy to use vehicles, and also you put it in a bunch of players' hands who are experienced at the game. Now, going up to 8.3, the only real difference this will have is it means it won't be able to get into 7.0 battles. And to be quite honest, what is at 7.0? I mean, you've got a few American tanks, you've got a few British tanks, and it does mean that when it comes to the higher tier stuff, there's actually a few changes that kind of affect this. So they've dropped a few vehicles to 9, such as the MBT-70, KPZ-70, Chieftain Mark 10, and this is obviously to try and create, this 9.0 bracket that they've talked about before, in the form of, all the premiums being either 9.0 or 8.7 at rank 5. And the idea is you create a bracket around it. Now, it hasn't worked yet, because people just play top tier, but if that is the case, then the i7 is going to get dragged up a lot into that 8.7, 9.0 area with the A1A1L44, with the T55AM, and with the XM1. So it's not going to have the best of times with those stabilized guns running around, and it's just another heavy tank, which unfortunately gets penalized because it has armor, and it's kind of sad, really. I understand why they're doing it, because of, the problems I brought up here, but it's just, I want a tank which, can actually withstand shots, and a lot of them in this little BR change, and a lot of them going forward, haven't been able to for a long time. There is a few in the game, but they're all going up right now. The other tank, the IS-4M, I really enjoy, so for me, I'll just go play this. Like, it won't be any different, and the IS-4, with the fully upgraded round, you still have good pen. It's not anywhere near the IS-7, but yeah. So have fun with dealing with vehicles which are 20 to 30 years younger than the i7 with stabilized APF SDS, because that's going to be your life. And it just means that you don't get down-tiered as much. 7.7 is still going to be a popular BR though, especially with the Leopard 1 and the M48 running around. So maybe it still gets down-tiered a lot, and even the mouse, right? Maybe it gets down-tiered a lot, but I think more it's just going to get up-tiered into the 8.7 bracket, where those premiums run around. Then we have two changes to two German vehicles. The Panzer IIIM and the Panzer IIIL are going down from 3.3 to 3. And to be honest, I kind of understand this, and I'll tell you why. So, the Panzer IIIL and M, right? Yeah, the L and M. So, the L and M, the only real difference is that the M has some extra armor in the form of side skirts, and also a little bit extra armor of spaced armor on the top. Now, since the majority of people in the game at this tier use some form of AP shell, it doesn't really matter that you have that extra armor. Like, it only really matters that you have this extra 20 on the front when it comes to it, but when it comes to these, or when it comes to this, it's only 5mm, doesn't really make a difference. If anything, it just makes you a bit more bulky and a little bit heavier with having exactly the same stats. Now, I've personally always enjoyed the 50mm gun, but it does have its downsides, and the downsides are incredibly similar to what the British guns have, or at least used to. They're a little bit better now. But with this round, which is the stock round, and the only one which does any type of damage, once you penetrate, it doesn't have a huge, boom. It doesn't have a huge amount of explosive filler, which will annihilate a tank, kind of like how these 75s do for the Germans. So, the Panzer IV F2 at 3.3, which is exactly the same BR as these two, is much nicer to play, is much more easy to play, and has this big round, which pens more. We're talking about 40mm more at this point. And also the armor is about the same. It may even have more armor because of the add-on armor you can get as the modification, which you can find here. So putting these two at the same BR, what is the reason for me to use these Panzer IIIs over the Panzer IV? There isn't one. So we either up the Panzer IV F2, or we lower these guys. And for me, I think lowering these is maybe a worse option than the Panzer IV F2. Putting this at 3.7 wouldn't be too bad, especially now with the jumbo change, because that gun is really powerful at 3.3. But at least now at 3.0, these will be used. The other thing, though, is now we have 3 Panzer IIIs at 3.0. And the difference between them is a little bit of add-on armor between them, and a little bit of turret armor as well. So we're basically saying that, these are pretty much exactly the same vehicles with a little bit of added on. I mean, you can now run 3 Panzer IIIs at 3.0, so that's pretty cool. On top of this, the main thing that these need is not really an increase for their APC. They need APCR to actually do any damage at all. Because the way I've seen the dynamic is the Panzer IV is not really a brawler, but it's more like a medium range vehicle, which can go long range. So the idea is you engage at medium ranges, and then you close the gap, and then at short range you can just blow up everything. Whereas the Panzer IIIL has always been the sniper tank. Like, it has really good muzzle velocity on everything, apart from, of course, its HE. But the APCR, you're talking about 1,140 meters per second. The problem is, just with the APC round for these Panzer IIIs, the post-pen effect is not very good. It's even worse, and since it's APCR, it just doesn't do a lot. And there's a lot of tanks like this where they need a little bit of help with the APCR. I have an STG on top of this one, interesting. But it would be nice if that got a little bit of a damage increase. So it would make these Panzer IIIs more viable, but then again, we would have to increase their BR again. I think they're okay vehicles, it's just they're not as good as the Panzer IV F2. So there's no reason to take them right now, and with this BR change, there is now a reason to take them. Now we go on to the Italian boys. Thank God some of these are getting lowered. So the 7534 M42, if we go over here, so the 7534 M42 is this machine here, and as you can see, this is one of the ones which doesn't have any extra armor, it doesn't have any extra anything, and the only reason, as I've talked about in my videos, is this has a heat round which pens 100mm, right, and 77 on its standard round. Then if you look at these, it also pens 100mm. And also this, it also pens 100mm. So I'm pretty much going up in BR every time to gain some muzzle velocity. And that's just not good. That's not good enough, sorry. Especially when we talk about a whole BR. Like, it makes absolutely no sense that this machine here is a whole... this one here is a whole BR above this one. Because of some muzzle velocity. That's literally it, Like, there's 15 horsepower. That's it. Crazy, isn't it, when you think about it? And you lose the machine gun. So, luckily, the 7534 M42 is being dropped to 3.0. So, at least now, it's a little bit lower. I would still recommend it being a 2.7 or a 2.3. Because how much muzzle velocity is it? You gain, 552 with the 100mm of pen. This is at 300 and something, right? Yeah, 399. So you're at about 150 meters per second. That's the main difference between these two vehicles, and they're still massively different in BR. Like, I suppose when you compare these two, the 105 and the 7534, there's not really a reason to take the 7534, since this is just inherently better than it in, I believe, every single way that it can be. The only thing is that it's slightly heavier, so it's a little bit slower around the battlefield, but that's fine. You know, it's a tank destroyer. You're not supposed to be that maneuverable. You're supposed to be maneuverable enough to be able to get into positions, and once you get into those positions, you should be, you know, good. It's as simple as that. So you should be able to pen targets and do damage, whereas all of these Italian tank destroyers struggle with that. So lowering this is good. 7518 M41, is it? Yeah, so this one's getting dropped to 2-0. I can also see that happening, but once again, why is there a whole BR between this one and this one? Can someone please tell me the inherent difference that makes this a whole BR different? What is it? Anyone? Hello? Nobody? Okay, cool. Because if it's 15 horsepower and 150 muzzle velocity, sorry, like, I don't think there's a bigger disparity in the game. Then the 7532, this is going down to 2.7, so they're pretty much just lowering all these by 0.3. What I would do is go 2.0, 2.3, 2.7. I'm no joke. That's what I would do with these, because right now, if this is a 2.0, that's obviously a positive change. Means that its 100mm round should do a hell of a lot. If this is a 2.7, it still has the same real inherent issues, but still, it will face a little bit better people. And then this at 3.0, same issues. Unless they're trying to change, you know, something about it. I mean, really, what is the difference between this one, right? Not even just looking at this one. How about this one right now? Technically, this is at 2.7. This is at 3.0, right? That's what's going to happen. Yeah, 2.7 and 3.0. So these two have a 0.3 BR difference. The difference is like 15 horsepower. Sorry, not 15, 25. 25 horsepower, let's get that right. So the difference is 25 horsepower. If that is what makes 0.3 BR change, then we're going to have a talk about some other stuff, you know, some other changes that might have to be made. I would still drop this one, I would still drop this one. I think they'll still not be great. It does mean that some of them line up better with, well, does it actually? Like at 2.0, you can run it with the AB43, so at least that's good. At 2.7, there isn't another 2.7, so you're going to have to up-tier it anyway. And at 3.0, I mean, where's the other 3.0 tank? What are you going to run it with? Exactly the same stuff you did before. So, yeah, this is still a much better option than this. These two still have inherent issues, and so does this one, but it is nice to see their BRs lowered, because obviously they needed it. The R3T106 is going up to 7 from 6.7. I personally don't think this one is required, so I sang the praises of the R3T106. I really like it. I think it is the best out of the 3 armored cars if you want to use it as an aggressive scout. If you want to use a passive scout, the Orbital 74 is much better. But the one thing this thing does have is a little bit of armor on the front, so you can survive 50 cows if they don't know where to shoot you, which is shoot you right here, and it will kill everyone. Or at least it will kill 2 people. The thing is, it's still a race car with recoilless rifles, so whatever BR you put this at, it's still gonna do pretty well. So up-tiering it doesn't matter that much. The only effect that is really going to have at up-tiering it is it means that you can't run it as a 3-6-7 lineup. And the R3T106, the Orbital, and the Fiat are really fun to run together. So if you up-tier this, you're now having to up-tier the Orbital, which it can do, you know, it's fine, it can do well at 7.0, and also the Fiat, which once again can do well but it's still not great. And also, it means you can't run it with anything else. Before you had, you could at least make a decent 6-7 lineup. The Orbital, the R3, and the M26. And at 6-7, you kind of need those recoilless rifles, since you're coming up against so many big bruiser tanks. Same with the Orbital with its pen, even though I've somehow ricocheted so many times with this heat. But the main thing is, putting it at 7.0, there's nothing else here, right? So you're either going to have to up-tier it to 7.7, because they're changing the Centauro, but you're going to have to up-tier it to 7.7 with the 105, and then nothing else, so just those two vehicles, or you're going to have to use it as the top BR vehicle in your armored car lineup, because you do not want to up-tier this, and you definitely don't want to up-tier this. So you're limiting yourself massively now by putting this thing at 7.0. Now, if it is doing crazy, if it's doing really well, I can understand. But just from looking at it, it destroys so many fun lineups, And I suppose if we compare it to other nations, like if you look at this and you compare it to like the Ontos, right, at 6.7, or if you look at the Japanese one, the Type 60 SPRG at 6.7, I think there is an argument to say this one is very good compared to them, but in a certain playstyle. I do think the others also have their playstyles where they work incredibly well. So I think it's a difference in playstyle thing, and I think generally it's because War Thunder is played by people who want to play the game aggressively, and there's no issue with that. It is just kind of how it is, and this is going to do much better in aggressive situations than the Ontos and the Type 60, which for me are more passive just because of their speed. So this will still have the same problems. It will get annihilated by artillery. It'll get annihilated by 50 cals, it'll do all of this, and it just kind of wrecks some lineups here for the Italians, who don't have a ton of lineups already. So wrecking one of their really fun ones kind of sucks. But if the statistics are there, fair enough. The next one is the Centauro. So the Centauro, the big beefy, is going up from 7.7 to 8.0. Now, I have faced a lot of Centauros, and I am completely fine with it being at 7.7. I think I'm also fine with it being at 8.0, and I'll tell you why. So, the one thing about wheels is that wheels give you less maneuverability in the short term, but overall, it gives you more maneuverability in the terms of speed, and also in the terms of just flying around the place. You add this with a stabilizer, and what you end up having is a deadly combination. And one thing I could never wrap my head around, even from the dev server, is why is the Centauro 7.7, and why is the OF40 8.0? The Centauro has less armor, it has more speed, more maneuverability. It has the same gun, but the gun is stabilized. It gets the same round, right? The 400mm pen Heat FS that everybody uses, it gets the same round. So the difference between this and this is the OF40 doesn't have the speed, and it doesn't have the stabilizer. It's also got an interesting ammo area, which is easy to shoot. It's also quite big as well. It's got a big booty, just like the Centauro. So it was very odd to me that this was 8.0 and the Centauro was 7.7, but now they're both at 7.7. Sorry, they're both at 8.0. I would have rather seen them swapped. I think the OF40 would be fine at 7.7, and then you put the Centauro at 8.0 because of the stabilizer, because of the maneuverability, but then again, you would probably just up-tier it anyway, because of the fact that you don't have a full 8.0 lineup. You have the sedan, and then if you put the OF40 at 7.7, you'd have to up-tier it. But then again, you could run it with the 105 if you wanted. So, yeah, it could give you some interesting possibilities. Putting the Centauro on the same level as the OF40, I just feel kind of bad for the OF40. Like, the only reason to use this thing is low speed maneuverability and moving around corners, and that's just not what you do in the Centauro. You either, use your ability to move around the map and use it to, get into positions. Or what you do is with the OF40, or what you do is, you either fly around the map or you become stationary in a position you've got to really quickly. Whereas the OF40 is much more of I'm a medium tank and I have to do medium tank things. I think overall, when I look at it, I suppose, no, this even gets artillery support. It's a tank destroyer with artillery support. What? There aren't many tank destroyers in the game which have artillery support, by the way. Why is this thing labelled as a tank destroyer with artillery? Just call it a light tank and be the day. Like, I know it's 25 tons, but that's still, a lot less than the 43 tons coming out of the OF40. But yeah, I think putting this up, Tato, it makes sense. It's been doing really well on the battlefield. It can fit a really specialized, really good playstyle that a lot of people like Leopard drivers have been able to do for a long time, and also, the speedy French tanks as well. So, yeah, I can understand it. I would just say at the same time, the OF40 should be considered for a BR decrease, because the Centauro for me is just not on the same level as the OF40. It's just better. The 76 Jumbo is going up. Why? Why do you have to do this to the Jumbo? I understand, right? We will talk about the Jumbo going up to 5.0. I understand that. Why do you have to do it to my main man, the 76? What did the 76 do to you? Has he hurt you? Has somebody just been smashing in it? I don't think 5.7 is that bad for this thing, right? The Jumbo 76 has an inherent problem at 5.7 where it faces Panthers, it faces Tigers all day, and they can pen its front plate. Right? They can pen it.